Have you ever had a moment so painful that you remember the exact minute it happened? Not the day, not the year, the minute. For Gayle King, that moment came on June 24th, 1990 at 9:16 p.m. When she opened the door to her home, she walked straight into a betrayal that would quietly shape the rest of her life. But to understand why that night mattered so much, you have to go back to the beginning. Gayle was born on December 28th, 1954 in Chevy Chase. On the surface, her childhood looked stable. Her father was an engineer working for the U.S. government, and her mother kept the household running. But when Gayle was just 6 years old, her world flipped overnight. Her family moved across the ocean to Ankara during the Cold War. Imagine being a small child suddenly surrounded by unfamiliar languages, crowded markets, and the echo of the call to prayer. Gayle attended an American school there, but often she was the only black girl in sight. That kind of isolation teaches you something early: how to observe people, how to read a room, how to stand tall when you feel different. Those skills would become her greatest weapon later. When her family returned to the United States in 1966, things didn't feel like home anymore. Her accent had changed. Her experiences sounded strange to classmates. So she learned another survival skill: adaptation. She blended in when she had to. But inside, she kept the sharp awareness that comes from living between worlds. By 1972, Gayle enrolled at the University of Maryland to study psychology. Journalism wasn't even the plan, but in 1975, a small part-time job at a TV station changed everything. Or suddenly she was surrounded by flashing studio lights, ticking countdown clocks, and the adrenaline of live news. And something clicked. After graduating in 1976, she took a production job in Baltimore at WJZ-TV. That's where another young broadcaster was working too, Oprah Winfrey. One snowstorm forced Gayle to stay overnight at Oprah's place. What began as a simple sleepover turned into a conversation that lasted all night, and eventually one of the most famous friendships in modern media. But life was not just career victories. In 1982, Gayle married attorney William Bumpus. They built a family and welcomed 2 children. From the outside, everything looked perfect. But then came that night in 1990. The moment she discovered her husband with another woman in their own home. She tried to save the marriage, or counseling followed. Time passed. But trust, once broken, rarely rebuilds the same way. The divorce was finalized in 1993. Many people would have collapsed under that kind of heartbreak. Gayle did the opposite. She kept raising her children, kept showing up at work, kept growing as a journalist. And eventually, after decades of quiet persistence, she stepped onto the national stage with CBS This Morning in 2012. Then came the interview that proved her strength to the world. In March 2019, Gayle sat across from R. Kelly during one of the most explosive interviews in television history. When he shouted, stood up, and pounded his chest in anger, Gayle didn't move. Calm, steady, focused. That moment went viral. But the real reason it worked wasn't luck. It was experience. Because long before the cameras rolled, Gayle King had already learned the hardest lesson of all: how to stay calm when everything around you is falling apart.